Hello, everybody. Welcome to another stream. I know it's been a minute since I've done Mental Health Monday. Let me make sure this is working okay. Just want to make sure everything sounds good. Okay. All right, so I know it has been a minute since I've done Mental Health Monday. This year's been kind of chaotic. I know it's been kind of chaotic for a lot of people, but I am really going to be trying my best to get back into at least doing Mental Health Monday once a month. So today I want to talk a little bit about self-love because I figured we're ending the month of Valentine's month, where all the hearts and Cupid and all that stuff. But I figured, and I know Valentine's Day was a few weeks ago, but I thought it would be important to talk about self-love since we're still in that month. Also, it's an important thing. Something I feel like with self-love is people talk about it, but I don't feel like people talk about it enough in detail. Because I feel like something that people talk about a lot with self-love is that you have to completely love yourself fully and every little bit of part of you, and you have to think you're like the greatest, that you love nothing more than yourself and you love every little detail about yourself. That's not true. You're always there's always going to be something that you don't quite love about yourself, and that's okay. That doesn't mean you can't still love yourself. You can very much have very strong self-love and not like certain things. Like, I don't really like that I have nerve damage. It's not something that's going to change, though. I do things that make it better. I do work really hard to make sure I'm, keep on top of being strong, and I get treatments and everything. So I do my best to make sure it's managed. And that's something that you can do, is that if there's certain things that you don't necessarily like about yourself, is to try to see if there's a way you can change it or manage it, or just at least understand that about yourself. So, but that's something I think is important, is that it's not self-love isn't about loving every little inch and bit of detail about yourself. However, it is about finding at least one thing that you like about yourself. And that's enough. That's enough for you to have self-love, is to just find at least one thing that you love about yourself as an individual. Not that you love in conjunction to someone else, but you love as yourself as an individual. Because from there you can expand and grow, and you can have your self-love will build more than you realize if you continue to make sure you find that one thing and you focus on it and really remember it, especially when you're starting to struggle a little bit. For me, one of my things that I like the most is my intelligence. Um, that's something that I've always loved about myself, and so that's something I hold important. There's lots of things. I do have a list. I'm not going to go into it. um, but that's the thing, is start with one thing that you love about yourself. And then try to find another thing. 3 things would be a really good, definite good start. Finding 3 things, but at least try to find one thing. That's a start. Because remember, some things we have to start, most things you have to start very small, especially when you're talking about something that you're really trying to make a change with. It's about the baby steps. I know we talked about this in the last Mental Health Monday, it's about the baby steps. So you don't have to dive into, okay, well, by the end of the week. No, you can just go, okay, let me pick one thing that I love about myself and really think about it. Really think about it's something that makes you, that's something that is dear to you. That is, like I said, my intelligence is something that it doesn't rely on other people. It's just something that I have, a trait that I appreciate about myself and I love about myself. So focus on that one thing and then try to think of more things. And eventually you'll be able to start building a list. And if you're finding that there's a lot of things that you, when you're trying to find things that you like about yourself and you're struggling because you keep seeing negative things, we'll try to flip. Of course, it's always hard to change negative thinking. It's a very difficult thing to do. But try to see if you can find the other side of the coin to that. You know, like for example, okay, I don't love that I have nerve damage, but I do love that I continue to fight and work through it every day. I mean, for 10 years I fought with doctors to be able to get treatment. And now I'm very lucky I was able to find the good treatment that works for me and I'm able to walk again. So these are, and I've actually been able to build up strength and whatnot. Um, so this is something I love about myself, is that I don't give up easily, and I do fight for myself, for my health, for my life. And so that's something, if there's something you don't like, maybe think about a flip side of it. Maybe try to think of a different viewpoint of it. And like I said, if it's something that you think you don't like, try to change it, because I know there has been behaviors that I have worked on in the last year that I did not like about myself. And of course, I'm still trying to work through it. We're not perfect creatures, and we always are. As long as you allow yourself, we're always trying to grow and change and better ourselves. But that's one of those things where you try to work on that until you are happy with it, or at least more happy with it. Um, there's lots of things you can also do for self-love, because of course, self-care is also an important thing for self-love, because if you're taking care of yourself, I mean, think about it. You take care of your loved ones, right? So why wouldn't you take care of yourself? Because you're a loved one. Self-love, you should be a loved one as well. So in self-care can be so many different things. I know people talk about people try to say certain things that are important for self-care, but really it's just anything that makes you happy, as long as it's nothing that's harming any other person, including yourself. There's that. But as long as it's something that makes you happy. For me, something that is big is doing my yoga. um you know I can't think of other things off the top of my head. But it's small things. It's little. A lot of times, because I do my own nails right now, they're in transition between colors, and so they're not in the best shape. But that's something that I do, is I do my own nails, and I always like having my nails done because it makes me feel good. It's something that I enjoy, and so it can be something very simple, something very easy. Just thank you so much for the lurk. Try to find something that makes you feel better, that makes you feel good, that makes you, even a little bit happier. And that's good for your health. Make sure it's not anything that's a bad behavior, obviously, that's harming you or someone else, obviously. But I know a lot of people say self-love is, or self-care is, making sure you exercise, which I will say exercise is definitely a helpful thing, because it does release endorphins and helps you connect with your body and can help burn off stress and everything. So it does have it definitely does have good benefits for me. Like I said, for me, one of mine is yoga. That is part of my self-care, is because when I don't stay on top of my yoga, I can feel where it affects me mentally, and it does not affect me well mentally. So um, but it could be something as small as, you read a page, you watch a show, anything that just makes you happy. Not for someone else, but for you. Something that you do for you that makes you happy. And that's an important thing for self-love, is that you're doing something for you to make you happy. Because of course we all get caught up, especially in with family and friends and stuff. It's very easy to get caught up in wanting to focus so hard on, making them feel loved. And that's important. That's definitely important. But something else that's important is that we need to be able to take care and love ourselves, to really be able to help, to really make those relationships stronger. Because if you have if you don't have necessarily a great sense of self, then there's a lot of things that can happen. One, you may not be able to be giving the best that you could give in any kind of relationship. Um, a big thing, and this is something that I learned myself, is that when you can end up getting into friendships and relationships and whatnot that are unhealthy. Like I said, this is something that I learned. I went through a period of time where I really struggled with self-love. I ended up, because of health problems, I ended up gaining a bunch of weight, and there was a lot of things that happened in my life that were just a lot of changes that weren't necessarily wanted and didn't go in the most smoothest way. Things are fine. I'm okay. Don't worry. But I had gained a lot of weight because of health problems, and I wasn't able to fit into my clothes that I love so much. And I mean, there we go. There's another example. I have my black male clothing. So I wear these like crazy leggings stuff. I know it's not something you guys really see on stream because, but I love wearing that. It makes me feel good. It makes me feel confident. It's something that I really enjoy. And so that's something that's self-care and self-love, is that I'm finding something that I love to do for myself. Um so but I wasn't able to fit into that stuff because of the weight. And so I really started to I had very, very little love for myself. I mean, I still knew I had my intelligence, and that was kind of one of the few things that kept me going. But other than that, I had a hard time finding, because a lot of times if you struggle with self-love, you're also struggling with self-worth. And I lost a lot of worth for myself, and I ended up allowing myself to get manipulated into a really bad situation, and I got caught up with really, really, really bad negative people. Um, luckily that is completely done and out of that, I'm past all of that, but the thing is, I had in fact made myself feel like this was the best I could have, that with where I had gotten, that I didn't feel that I deserved much better, or that I could have much better. And of course, a lot of that was because of my weight. And I'm not saying that weight has any, but just for me personally, because it had a lot of impact on my health. Like, I wasn't able to do a whole lot. I was uncomfortable. I wasn't able to express myself. It wasn't just a matter of actually physically what I looked like. It was a matter of, it just impacted me in a lot of ways very negatively. And so when I was falsely presented with attention that was actually, too good to be true, when I was presented with that, because I was so negative about myself and thought so little of myself, it didn't take much for me to get caught up in something that I knew that if it were to happen now, there's no way in hell. um, because I'll go a little into it. Okay, so I when I had when I was at my heaviest, um, I ended up meeting somebody, and they presented me with a lot of lies, and the perfect Prince Charming type thing, which a lot of times when it's too good to be true, it is, and it was, and I knew it too. I realized it was too good to be true, and this wasn't a person I was even interested in, but the lies that they were feeding me, I got caught up in because it made me feel good, because I was since I wasn't giving myself enough love and credit, I was getting caught up in this attention that was given by someone else, because I wasn't giving myself enough love and credit. And so I allowed somebody else to, amp me up, essentially, I guess, is not quite the right way to say. But point is that it is this attention that they were giving me because I wasn't giving myself that kind of love and attention. I fed off of it and they trapped me with it, and I ended up in a really bad situation. Um, Luckily it didn't last long and I'm completely weighing out of it and I'm fine. It's all good. But I learned something. I did learn that because now I've worked very hard on um strengthening myself, and it was in both mentally and physically. And so now I know that I would, because I felt that I had to settle with certain things because there was things about this person I didn't like, but I was like, well, they're giving me this idea of, and so I kind of felt like, oh, well, this is the best I can get anyway, so I might as well accept, because at least they're giving me this positive attention, not realizing that that what they were giving me was just the typical idea of what is it the typical idea of like a romance movie type of thing, not actually a sincere, I'm trying to actually like you and want to get to know you and want to impress you. No, it was the typical things to impress you, the very stereotypical things. And because I was not impressed with myself, I allowed this to really get into my head. Um, Now I know that I deserve better. I see the difference because I do value myself and my time a lot more, because I do make sure I have, taken better care of myself, and started to love myself a lot more. But because of me finding my self-worth again, I've realized where I would have not done certain things, where I got caught up in certain things because I didn't have the self-love that I have now. Um, so it's something that's important to do, is to make sure that you are really keeping your value, because otherwise, and unfortunately, manipulative people, they really they know how to prey on people. It's a thing. They know how to prey on people who are weak, and they see it. They can smell it, I swear. But I was weak. I had very little value, and so I allowed this person to make me feel valued, even though they weren't. Um, and then by the time I realized I had gotten caught into a situation, but now I realize my value. I realize that I definitely can love myself much better than this person ever could even try to care about me. I can care about myself and love, there's that whole, I'm sure a lot of people have heard that song Flowers by Miley Cyrus. There's actually a really good message in that. Is That's actually a really good point of self-love, of, it's, yeah, of course it's nice to be able to have that other person, but then you got to really think about it and go, okay, is this person really giving me what, and this is in a friendship too. This isn't just like a partnership. This is in a friendship as well. Any kind of relationship. Is this person giving me the best of what I need? I mean, of course, everything is not like, there's always going to be give and take and all that. But the point is it a matter of, can this person care about me as enough? Like, am I able to love and care about myself way better? Because if so, then like they can't even hold a candle to it. Then why am I allowing them to do what? Okay, so they got me flowers. That's that's nice, but then, and in the moment, like, a couple minutes later, they end up scolding me for something. No, that's not. So you can do all these typical things, like, I know I keep referring to the song, but it's just something. It, but like the things like that, it's just they can cover up lies and they can cover up what's not really there. So if you got to really think about, if you really can try to focus on your self-worth and loving yourself, then you can see better if the a person is loving you in the right way. And I know, like, okay, I know, when you're talking about it, but I know love can be a big scary word, but the point is just care about you. And if they're having a position in your life, like I said, friendship, partnership, anything, if they're having a position in your life, are they taking care, are they doing what is what you could also do for yourself? Because don't seek love from other people to feel that's the problem. Okay, this, I feel like I'm not explaining this well, but that's one of the things is, if you one of the big things is that if you don't love yourself, if you got to make sure you have some kind of self-worth, some kind of self-love, so that way you don't end up getting caught in a situation that gives you just enough to think that you're being loved and cared for when really you're not, and they're only making your life and you more miserable. And so, but if you realize how it feels to be loved when you love yourself, because of loving yourself, then you can find the positive, like a person who is going to be more in that be healthier. have you can have a healthier relationship, like I said, friendship, partnership, anything. um so it's just it's a very important thing. Self-love, it affects a lot of things, because it affects our confidence, it affects, in which our confidence affects our way of being able to do a whole lot of things. But yeah, it's an important thing to try to remember, to try to keep in mind. And it's a struggle. It's a hard thing to, and of course there's going to be days, especially when you do struggle, if you do struggle with depression and stuff like that, there are going to be days where it's going to be really hard to love yourself, and that's okay. You can have self-love and have days where you don't particularly love yourself. It's going to happen. But that doesn't mean that you don't have self-love. It's a general thing, like the so it's okay, because I really feel like people, when they talk about self-love, it's just this kind of all or nothing thing, and it's not. It's about just, it can be the smallest things. Just finding your value, finding what makes you happy, what makes you feel cared for, what you like about yourself, what you want to continue to present and grow, or what you maybe want to change. Um so this is an important, I feel like I'm terrible at explaining this, but yeah, it's something that I don't think people think about, is the effects that's not having self-love can in the long run, because people don't really, I really don't feel like people talk about the fact that you can get preyed on when you don't have a sense of, because since you don't have a sense of self-love, you don't have that worth, you don't have that sense of your worth, then you'll take whatever kind of love somebody will give you, even if it is bad, because you're not finding what is the kind of love that you need. When you have your own self-love, you know what kind of love that you need. And so then you can find the people who fit into your life better. And you'll be able to love them better too. Because if you have your own self-love, you're not having to constantly try to seek it from somebody. And that can be a problem in any kind of relationship. I've had issues with that in friendships before, where I started, I've had, I relied on, um, there's been times I've relied on people to tell me my worth, and then they get frustrated with having to constantly validate me and no longer talk. uh, but I've grown and I've experienced various things to know that I don't need to seek that validation all the time. And the thing is, if you're having to, then maybe either one, assess your with yourself as to why, and it could be either it may be a matter of um because you need to work through some stuff mentally, or if it's with one person, like if it's with a specific person or a couple of specific, it's with certain people, then maybe really assess if they're giving you a reason to doubt. Are they really giving you the exchange that you need? So that's something to consider. And I mean, of course, everybody needs validation. But if you're doing it if you're doing it constantly, that ends up frustrating the person. Really assess the situation, see if it's something that you need to work on, see if it's something that you need to maybe really evaluate your relationship with that person. Because I can definitely tell you there was people that I wanted validation from, and I look back on it now and I realize that's because they weren't validating me enough in their actions. They were doing things that made me question, and I didn't even realize. Um, and everybody's don't find because I mean, of course, there's the basic guideline of self-love and everything, but don't feel that you have to check all the boxes that is presented to you, especially like on social media, of self-love is this, self-love is that. You have to do this, you have to do that. You don't. You need to just find what you love about yourself, how find your worth, find your value, and realize what it is that you need. Because if you can love yourself, then you can find out, you can have an understanding of what you need to feel loved. And then that means you can be able to you can have healthier relationships, because then you're not getting stuck in people who aren't going to fulfill what you need. Or you can try to explain that that's something you need. People talk about a love language. If you can have some better understanding of yourself through self-love, then you might be able to understand that. And self-love can also allow you to be able to get through things better. If you're trying to work through traumas, for example, and you make sure you keep a definite, and that's something I would recommend, is making sure before you start trying to really work through hardcore stuff like that, is to make sure you have a center of self-love. Because when you're talking about certain traumas, it is really easy, I know because I have done it, it is really easy to start blaming yourself and start feeling really bad about yourself. And instead of looking at, okay, wait, but I am great because I am this person, and I like that about myself, and I am this. And so what, it wasn't really my fault. What happened in this situation? Well, I feel like the I'm the one who caused it, or like I'm the one who allowed it. Am I though? I mean, yes, technically I did, but were there things that affected that? So, if you have that sense of self-love, then you can maybe try to not guilt trip yourself so much. And if you do start to guilt trip yourself, because it's really easy to spiral down into guilt tripping yourself and thinking very little of yourself, and it can go, especially if you deal with depression and stuff like that. um it can be really easy to spiral down. So if you have that strong sense of self-love, you can you can try to go back on it. And of course, there's, like I said, there's going to be times that you're not going to feel it. And so, maybe write it down, especially if you are trying to build it. Write it down somewhere that this is something that you love about yourself. Um, and like I said, self care is an important thing. That is loving yourself. Self care is loving yourself. So just think about things that make you happy, that make you feel, that lift you up and stuff. It can be, people think it has to be like a spa day and stuff. If that works for you, great. But it doesn't have to be that. It can just be, maybe you have to take time off of social media to quiet yourself and be, and that's another thing too, is that's not the worst thing. That's always, I recommend, there's a whole segment that I have planned eventually to talk about with social media, because there is multiple things that I did, multiple mental health Mondays sections with social media. But I can tell you that social media can impact our self-love um negatively. And so if you're finding that to be a problem, then what you can do for self-care is to walk away from it. And I know it's easier said than done, but maybe either limit, or maybe you make sure you follow only certain pages or look at only certain things, or whatever you need to do to make sure it's going to put you in a better mental state. Um, so that's kind of, give me just 1 second. Oh, what? Hold on. Sorry, give me just 1 minute. Um, okay. Sorry, just concerns. Um, but yeah, so that's one of the big things I wanted to talk about is self-love is how your journey to find self-love is your own journey. Yes, there are things that can help you. There are tips, definitely. One of the big things to keep your self-love up is self-care. Self-care is anything that makes you happy, that you do for yourself, that isn't negatively impacting you or anyone else, that is something a positive, something that you're doing for yourself. Um, any kind of self-care like that. And I mean, basically relaxing, like if it's video games, hey, if that's your self-care, there is nothing wrong with that. Um, definitely with self-care, it is, if you can do something that is improving, like, for example, I mean, simple things for self-care is just, take a shower, brush your teeth, making sure your hygiene's up, making sure you're well fed, making sure things like that. We think about these things that we just do as necessities. They're actually, some of them are actually self-love, to well, self-care, which is self-love, because some of those things you may think, oh, well, taking a shower is just something you do. You just, actually, it is a form of self-care. It is a form of self-love, because you're making sure you take care of yourself, because you want to, and when you take care of yourself, you're helping love yourself. But one of the big things that I wanted, I guess my big takeaway with this, I feel like I probably should have prepared better for this. If I come up with more better, well thought out things, I will make sure to say it later on. But one of the big things that I wanted to say about self-love is that it is your own journey. One of the biggest things is to find one thing, just one thing, that is about you, that isn't connected to, oh, you're someone else. One thing about you as an individual that you like about yourself. Hold on to that, and then try to grow, try to keep going more. If you find there's certain things that you don't like about yourself, try to work on it. If it's something that you know is just a flaw that you have, accept it, because we're all flawed. Nothing is perfect. Nothing ever is perfect. Computer programs and stuff aren't perfect. There's always gonna there's flaws in our world is just full of flaws. And so we're gonna have our, of course we all have our own flaws. So I feel like that's another part of self-love, is to accept them. I mean, basically anything that's like you would with a friend or a partner, whatever, you should be able to do with yourself. So if you can learn to accept and love a person even despite their flaws, then you should be able to do the same thing for yourself. So that's something that I definitely recommend, is, try to be able to make, one of the big things I feel like with self-love is making yourself happy, not relying on other people to make you happy, but being able to make yourself happy with your own actions. You can just make your own happiness. Yeah. That's something, and maybe that's something that you may be doing and you may not realize. That's self-care and self-love. You may not even realize how much, because you still focus, and even I still focus on a lot of flaws of myself and think about things that I don't like, and it just happens. But I do feel like I have a pretty good sense of self-love. I do try really hard to make sure I focus on making that a strong thing. Especially with some of the things that I have gone through, I want to make sure that I realize my worth and my value. And so I always try to make sure I keep a very strong sense of self and a very strong sense of self-love. And so you may not realize that you're already doing really well with self-love, because if you're taking care of yourself and you're doing things to make your own happiness and everything, then you don't realize it. Maybe you actually are loving yourself more than you realize. You don't have to sit there and tell yourself in the mirror every day how much you love yourself. I mean, if you can't do it, go for it. I mean, anything that helps helps you think more positively about yourself, that as long as it doesn't negatively impact anyone else, go for it. Do it. So that's just remember, it's your own journey. There are different tips you can do, but just start with one thing you like about yourself and grow from there. Make sure you keep that in mind, that one thing, especially when you start to feel a little down and you start to struggle. Make sure you find that, at least that one quality that you like about yourself, that makes you worth more than you might be giving yourself credit for. That makes you have worth. That makes you have, because everybody it has worth. Everybody, we all should, sorry, hold on. I thought I heard something. Um, but yeah, we should value ourselves. So that's when you're struggling to do that, and there are going to be days, and that's okay. Try to focus on that one thing. Even if it's just a matter of that, maybe that thing just keeps you from spiraling down more, that's fine. There's just going to be days. But especially if you're trying to deal, because I can tell you, trying to work through some trauma, I definitely found that the self-love thing has made an important thing on, one, realizing why I got myself into some of those situations, because I had very little self-love for myself at the time. And two, um, it makes me have to, when I start to put myself down too much, I go back and go, wait a minute. Okay, yes, maybe this was a mistake I made in the past and I don't like it, but it's a mistake I learned from, and I just because I made that mistake, that doesn't mean that I'm worth any less, because I still have a lot of value, and I learned something, and I'm going to make sure that and that's something else with self-love is learning lessons, making sure you really take away, trying to evaluate things. So self-love can be a lot more than what people think. I feel like people get focused on it has to be this a lot more all or nothing than people. I feel like that's what people kind of make it out to be, is that it has to be this all or nothing. That every day you have to love every single bit of yourself. And that's not the case. Because like I said, there are days that don't particularly like myself. There's just days that it happens. Um, but I know ultimately when if I really start to spiral, I remember, okay, what are these things are these are things that are good about me. No matter what I do, these are things that are good about me. And so these are the things I need to focus and work on, and try to redirect myself to that better version of myself. I really feel like I'm not explaining this very well, but hopefully maybe this is something that will give some kind of help for somebody. But um kind of wrapping up, self-love is your own journey. Self-care is important. Things that go into self-love is self-care, self-worth, all of that. That's all about self-love. Take care of yourself, and you're actually when you take care of yourself, you're actually participating in self-love. So really look and evaluate on some of the things that you do, because while they may seem like just things you have to do, they actually may be a form of self-love. You don't have to do this extravagant big thing for you to have self-love. I mean, just trying to take care of yourself. I mean, when we love other people, we try to take care of them, right? We want to help them, like, when we can. So doing the same thing for us when we try to take care of ourselves, we're loving ourselves. We're taking care of ourselves. So think about it and realize you may actually have more self-love than you realize. Find one thing you like about yourself. Preferably, if you can, find more, but at least find that one strong thing that is undeniably something you love about yourself. That has nothing to do with anyone else. That's you. And make sure you hold on to that. And really focus on, because the thing that's so, I mean, self-love is very important for many reasons. For, of course, a better mental state, and it just impacts us. But one of the things that I feel that is a really important thing about self-love is that if we can love ourselves, then we don't have then as long when we love ourselves, we're not as likely to get trapped into situations that aren't, because that's something that's huge, is when we have problems with our own worth and we're not able to have enough self-love, then we can easily end up getting trapped and stuck into a falsely presented love by someone else, and it end up being a really bad situation, and you'll end up rationalizing certain things that aren't good because of just that little bit of love that they've presented faithfully to you. When you have that strong sense of self-love, you'll be able to go, wait, this is not how I want to be treated. This is not how I would treat someone else. This is not how I would want my friend to be treated. So why am I allowing myself to be treated like this? I deserve better. I deserve to be treated better than this. And so I'm going to make sure, if I can treat myself better, then no. That's one of the things. That's, of course, relationships are all give and take, and there's a lot of complication things but if ultimately you're being treated badly and you can treat yourself better just on an average basic day, if you can treat yourself better, it's time to really evaluate and probably walk away from that situation. So that's something, like I said, that song Flowers has a really good message. It's not just about, oh, like, I don't need you, but it really is, it's If we have that sense, if we make sure we have self-love, we can make sure we don't get trapped into false manipulated love and allow ourselves to be treated poorly because we're seeking love from someone else so badly that that little bit that they give us, even though they treat us very badly the rest of the time, that little bit that they give us we feel is worthwhile because we aren't giving ourselves enough love. So we'll allow all this horrible things to happen for that little bit of love that they're willing to give us, and we'll reason all these terrible things to be okay because of that little bit of love that they give us. But if we're able to give that to ourselves, then you don't need to be dealing with that. You don't need to you should be able to realize that that's not that those things are bad. Those aren't things that you should just deal with. Those aren't things that you should just accept. Those red flags are red flags. You feeling mistreated is in fact you feeling mistreated, and that 1 minute of love that that person tries to give you is not it. And so when we have a stronger sense of self-love, then we can make sure that we pay more attention to, okay, this person is not valuing me the way that they're not valuing me the way that I value myself, and they're not caring and loving me. I can definitely love myself better. That's such a, like I said, I know it's from Psalm, but I can love myself better. That's such a huge thing because if you can love yourself better, then that's something that you can really pay attention to in other relationships, in any kind of relationship. Um, so that's having self-love is just an important general thing for your mental health and just in all kinds of your daily life and whatnot. But it definitely, self-love is such an important thing to make sure that you end up in good, healthy relationships, whether that's partnership or friendship or anything, because if you have a sense of self-love and self-worth and you know what you need to feel loved, then you can make sure that you are evaluating people who come into your life, that they are able to fit and they are giving you the love and support and everything that you know that you need and that you deserve. So that's kind of all I have. I hope that I, well, I feel like I did not explain things very well. I hope that maybe maybe something stuck from somebody, but yeah. So that's kind of it for self-love for now. Um I definitely will have some kind of mental health Monday next month, hopefully. I have a couple different ideas. I definitely have a whole segment that I want to do, multiple segments I want to do on social media. Um, and that's another thing. Self-love is important when you're trying to deal with social media because that one can help keep you from allowing social media to, and that's the thing is, if you can't deal with social media, that's a form of self-love because you realize that you can't deal with it, and it's okay if you need to step away from it because you realize that you need to take care of yourself. So taking care of yourself is self-love. Find that one thing that you love about yourself and make sure you hold on to that. And if we can make sure that we love ourselves and find our value in ourselves, we can try to make sure we don't end up in bad situations and end up being in relationships, whether that's friendships or partnerships, with the wrong people. And if a relationship turns bad, we're able to be able to identify that because we'll understand that we if we start to realize that we can love ourselves better, then maybe it's time to step away from that person and just love yourself. So if you love yourself, you don't have to rely on others for love and end up around bad people, because that is a problem. Is if we rely on others for our own happiness and love, a lot of times that's where a lot of people who are not great end up stepping in. Sorry, my phone keeps going off. I'm gonna have to look at that in a minute. But yeah, so that's kind of my takeaway is just self-love is important for health in many ways, but it also is important to keep yourself from being in bad situations. And I definitely learned that myself um recently within mm, recently. Not super, it was like this happened in the end of 2024 and honestly even the beginning of 2025. But point is, I had very little self-love and very little value for myself, and I allowed somebody who gave me an idea, a very generalized, typical idea of love to not necessarily love, but attention. You get what I'm saying? Attention to fulfill what I wasn't giving myself. And because I wasn't valuing myself enough, I allowed them to treat me poorly. So if we can make sure we have that a good sense of self-love and self-worth and self-care, we can keep we can try to keep away from those situations because those situations can end up being a black hole and you don't even realize how far you've gone until it's already happened. So yeah, that's self-love is important just for a good healthy, but it's also good to keep out of unhealthy situations. So it's good to keep as a positive healthy thing on the daily, on your life in general, but it also makes sure you maintain keeping a healthier life by not allowing unhealthy people to enter it because you're not giving yourself enough love. So definitely, like I said, find that one thing, just one thing. Realize that some of the things that you're already doing, self care, just taking care of yourself, like you made sure you took a shower. That's self care. That's self love. It can be the smallest things. Find those things. Realize that you are taking care of yourself and that you are having a form of self love. Because as soon as you realize that you are already doing it, you can build on it. You can realize that you can go more and more and more. Like you can amp that up. You can go, okay, well, I have a starting point. I'm already doing this. So now I can, if I'm already doing this, that means I do have some kind of sense of love for myself. So I can grow that love for myself. And then I don't have to seek it from a bad source because that's a big thing. So yeah, that's yeah. One thing, realize the stuff you're already doing to take care of yourself. That's already self-love. Making sure you realize your self-worth and what and assess in any kind of relationship if you can love yourself better, then really think about that relationship. But we need to have a good sense of self-love so that way we can make sure we know that we can love ourselves better and not end up being manipulated into just a dangle bit of love when if we have that void of not having that love for ourselves, then it will be easy for someone to be able to take advantage of that and manipulate it and give you just enough love in there that it feels that you need them. And then you'll reason a lot of horrible behavior to being okay. So there you go. That's all I've kind of got. Um I will be starting my normal gaming stream probably about 12:30, between 12:30 and 1 o'clock. I'm gonna go take a minute to go ahead and adjust my lighting because I'm gonna put my little fun lights on and stuff. And then probably get something to drink and maybe a little snack. Before I start playing Dead by Daylight. Gonna be playing some Dead by Daylight with Llama Mama tonight. So, come hang out on stream for some Dead by Daylight here in about half an hour to an hour ish. Well, less than between 12:30 and 1. Within the next hour. There we go. Within the next hour. Um, so come hang out. Um, If you have an idea for Mental Health Mondays, please let me know. I'm always open to ideas. And of course, you are always welcome to speak up anytime during Mental Health Monday. And if there's a subject you want to talk about or a question or something, never hesitate to ask or say. This is a safe space, and this is about trying to bring awareness and any kind of possible help, um, supporting each other. Because mental health is health, and it's something that is hard to, especially in our world today. Keeping mental health is definitely something that we have to make sure we work at keeping healthy. So, and one of the things you can do is make sure you love yourself. Find that one thing. Realize the things you're already doing, that's self-care, that is self-love, so you can build on that. And then you can make sure that you love yourself enough to not get caught in a situation that might be bad, because you realize that you don't need someone else to love you because you love yourself enough. That someone else's love is just a bonus, but you love yourself. That's the thing. Someone else loving you it should be a bonus, because you should love yourself. Because that's gonna make for healthier relationships if you have that sense. But yeah, thank you guys for coming and hanging out and listening. I really appreciate it. Like I said, within the next hour or so, I'll be starting some Dead by Daylight with Llama Mama. We've got the Year of the Horse stuff, and we're gonna be doing some 2v8. So we'll be doing both Killer and Survivor tonight. So yeah, thanks for listening. I really appreciate it. And remember, find that self-love. All it takes is one thing. Just that one thing you love about yourself. Hold on to it and build from there. I hope you guys have a great day or night. I hope to see you guys on the next stream. And I hope to see you guys on the Gear Shirt, and I hope to see you guys on the next Mental Health Monday. I will post on my Discord when I'm gonna be doing Mental Health Monday again. It hopefully will be sometime next month. I just can't promise when right now. My goal is always trying to do it in the middle of the month or the end of the month, but it just kind of depends. You know, life happens. And if I am having a day where I am struggling too much with my mental health, because it just happens, I usually don't do Mental Health Monday because I don't want to project anything. And if you ever feel that I am or something, you can definitely call me out on it. But yeah, I mean, so I'm not entirely sure what my next one will be. If you have suggestions, please let me know. But yeah, thank you